is Josh. Welcome to another Cage how-to video. Today we're going to be going from Final Cut Pro to Adobe Premiere 6.0. A lot of people are afraid from this transition or intimidated, but through this instruction I'm going to show you that basically Premiere is almost identical to Final Cut. In fact, once you start using Premiere, you're going to realize that it's a lot better and you're going to want to use it more often. I made the transition a few years ago with 5.0 and I really haven't gone back. So we're going to start now. Alright, and welcome to the Final Cut to Premiere tutorial. Here we have Final Cut open. Very nice. Alright, now let us begin going into Premiere. Hold on to your seats. So here we have Premiere, and we're going to click on this, and I'm going to close Final Cut for now. Alright, and here's our first box, little dialog box with Premiere. It says Help, Open Project, New Project, and it has a list of some old or recent projects that I've been working on. So if you have a past project, you click on here. If you're working on a new project, which we are going to be working on, you'll click here. So let's click New Project. And these are all presets. Premiere defaults to the best settings, so you don't really need to mess with any of this stuff. This will be defaulted to the last settings, but if you'd like to put it someplace so you know where your files are, it's always best. So mine is set to my external hard drive, so I'll just call this, wow, that's awesome. And we'll click OK. Now we can either fiddle through all this stuff here and find a file, a sequence, create a sequence from one of these lovely presets. If we're using lots of different footage from different cameras and whatnot. But I usually shoot with one camera and whatnot and just work that way. So, and then you could click OK if you want to, but generally I click cancel because one of the great things about Premiere is it will create footage quite easily from whatever you bring in. So let's go to that. Alright, here we have Premiere. Pretty boring, right? Well, you just wait. Alright, now you're transitioning from Final Cut to Premiere. So let's go up to here. Let's start to make this look a little bit more like Final Cut to get you on your incredible journey. So first I'm going to click on Workspace, or up here at Window, excuse me, and go to Workspace. This is actually very similar to Final Cut, and it has different presets, whether it's effects, editing, CS5, meta logging, color correction, audio. All these presets are designed to better allow whatever you're trying to do. So if you click on meta logging, this is set up to help you do your meta logging. Or if you're doing color correction, this is set up to help you do lots of color correction. And then effects. So very nice. I like the effects preset for a couple different reasons. It kind of reminds me of the Final Cut, and it's very efficient with space. Alright, and now we're going to go into something else that will totally help you. We're going to click on Premiere. we're going to go to keyboard shortcuts. Now, it says keyboard layout preset. Now, you probably know, if you're coming from Final Cut, a lot of the Final Cut presets. Now, under here, we're going to click here, and we're going to click Final Cut Pro 7. It also has Avid Media Composer, so even if you're coming from Avid Media, you could do Avid Media. But we're going to click on Final Cut because this is about Final Cut. And what happens is all these shortcuts turn into the Final Cut shortcuts. So, like the selection tool is A. Now, I went back to CS6. The selection tool is V. So we'll go back to the Final Cut. There's all of our different tools. Now, they don't have shortcuts for everything because Final Cut doesn't have some of these tools, but you can assign these tools quite easily by clicking on them and giving them a letter by clicking edit, and we'll do that, but I'll click cancel. Now, if you have trouble with the color, click appearance and we can make it lighter. And there we go. And that gets us started for our first bit. And welcome back to the second part of our Premiere Pro tutorial. We're going to be working on dealing with files. So I'm going to import a file. This is a .mxf file. Some of you may be familiar with these. You may be crying right now because you've had lots of frustration. Maybe this is the reason why you are watching this, because you've dealt with these files in Final Cut and they make you cry. Notice how it actually just loaded right into it. Watch me attempt to import a .mxf file into Final Cut, and it's not even considered a standard file. If I go to all files, what happens? It should just work, right? No, file error. Doesn't like it at all. So I imported this .mxf file. I shot it on a Canon. Some of this footage may look familiar. So this is one of the reasons why I really love Premiere. There's this little icon here, new item, and this icon may seem familiar. If you go to Photoshop, there's this little icon right here, and you can click on it and it creates a new layer. Now, one reason again why I like Premiere so much is they're all the same, as in a lot of the icons and a lot of the functions and even a lot of the, in fact, all the key commands are the same. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to drag it over my new item. And again, look at that handsome devil. And Premiere Pro creates a sequence already designed right to your file, which is extremely handy. Now, another thing is, I like my audio level down here, and you can totally customize things to however you want. You can put it here. It's kind of big, but I like to put mine down here, and it always gets really big, which is really handy. So we can see the audio levels. It's nice and visual. Probably not the best audio in here. Now take a look at these icons up here. This shows our footage that we've imported, and here shows our sequence. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to import a red file. Okay, now I've imported a native red file. Here it is right here. And you can see it's got the .r3d, and I can click it on it and view it in my source monitor. Look at that, some fantastic stuff. And I can even do the same thing as I did to my .mxf file. I can just drop it in here and use this to zoom in on, and I can play my sequence. Now it's gonna play kind of slow because it's a huge file. So I have this guy up here, select playback resolution. I can go from full resolution to 1/16, and you can tell it's pretty blurry. Now, one thing that's really great about Premiere and red files, and why people love shooting on the red and some of these higher end cameras, is what you see isn't actually always what you're getting. And to edit a red file in Final Cut is a sin, because you waste so much time. So I'm going to click on this footage here, and I'm going to go to source settings, which is right here. And what I have here is access to all the information that was shot. So I can change all this stuff, and this isn't adding color to it. This is actually the color information that was taken when the image was shot. I can actually white balance. I actually know this column was white, so I can white balance it. I can add more saturation. Make it really overexposed. We have some built-in red effects, and this is all stuff that's already in there. And we have more settings down here with our gain. can see how it was as shot, default, custom. So lots of great things to do. Okay, now I want to show you one more thing with Premiere Pro, and that's working with a Photoshop file. Now, if you're watching the last bit, we were dealing with Premiere's work with a R3D file or a red file. So let's go back to Final Cut. And here we have a PSD file, and I'm gonna drop it down into a sequence. Now, one thing you'll notice is this evil red line. If we play, we get the cursed unrendered. So that's very frustrating. And if we double click it, we can move the different layers around and effects, and if we want to preview it, it still gives us the unrendered. So we can go ahead and render each time we want to move it, which is very time consuming. So let's go back to Premiere, and we're going to import it right here. And Premiere gives us a couple different options. Now we can merge all layers as one single file, or we can merge all layers, individual layers, or a sequence. The merge all layers will just look similar to what we just saw in Final Cut. I'm going to choose sequence, and we can deselect different layers that we don't want. But I'm going to bring them all in. And here it is, right over here. Oops. And let's drop this down. And here they are. They're all labeled, just how they would be labeled. But we have this guy right here, and this is our sequence icon. And we double click on that. And let's zoom in. Now here we have that cursed red bar. So we play, and we don't have to deal with any of that rendering. And it's actually playing at full resolution. And we can adjust. And wow, that's amazing. Now, one thing also is that since it's Adobe, it likes to work well with other Adobe things. So I can right click on it and edit in Photoshop, and here it is. It says update, so I'll update it, and I can make changes in here. I want this up here. That looks good. I'll move this around. I'm going to rasterize that layer, and I'll save it, and I'll go back, and you can see our changes. It was up here now. So that's pretty cool. Working with Photoshop files is really easy. I can just take this and drop this sequence on top of here, and just like that. So again, you can see how working in Premiere is a lot easier. You don't have to deal with the rendering that you dealt with in Final Cut, and you have a lot more flexibility. So that concludes this part of Premiere. I hope you work in Premiere And again, I hope you eventually go back to the default settings, because like I said, the default settings are the same in Photoshop and After Effects and a lot of the other Adobe programs, and the more you get used to them, the better you'll be as a proficient editor. Thank you.